The night of the moon binding ceremony was supposed to be sacred. Silver lanterns hung from the ancient cedar trees, glowing softly under the full moon. The entire pack had gathered in the ceremonial clearing, dressed in deep ceremonial colors, black, silver, and crimson. The air carried the scent of pine, firewood, and anticipation. Tonight, the Alpha King would choose his Luna. And everyone believed they already knew who it would be. Lyria stood quietly near the edge of the gathering, her fingers trembling slightly as she held the folds of her simple pale blue dress. Unlike the other women, she wore no jewels, no embroidered silk, no crown of silver leaves. She was only the healer's daughter, soft, spoken, unnoticed, and invisible to most of the pack. But not to fate, because 3 nights ago, the moon goddess had whispered something impossible into her soul. "He is your mate." The moment she realized who it was, her heart had stopped. Alpha King Kaler Draven, the most feared alpha across all territories. A warrior king whose name alone silenced rival packs. A man who had never once shown softness, and yet the mate bond had awakened. Lyria had spent 3 sleepless nights trying to convince herself it was a mistake, but the pull only grew stronger. Now he stood at the center of the clearing, tall, commanding, wrapped in a dark ceremonial cloak that moved with the wind. His sharp features were carved like stone, his silver-gray eyes glowing faintly beneath the moonlight. Power rolled off him like a storm waiting to break. Every female in the crowd watched him with longing. Except Lyria, she watched him with fear, because he hadn't acknowledged the bond, not once. The ceremony began. The High Elder stepped forward, raising the ceremonial staff. The moon goddess calls truth into the night. Alpha King Kaler Draven, step forward and claim the one your soul chooses. Silence fell. Kaler's gaze slowly moved across the gathered women. Confident smiles appeared. Dresses shimmered. Hearts pounded. Then his eyes stopped. On Lyria, the world froze. The mate bond surged violently through her chest, warm and electric. Her breath caught as his gaze sharpened, recognizing understanding. For a single moment, something unreadable flickered in his expression. Shock, then conflict, then cold restraint. A whisper spread through the crowd. Why is he looking at her, the healer's girl? That's impossible. Lyria felt the bond pulling her forward, step by step, as if the moon itself guided her feet. She didn't even realize she had moved until she stood within the ceremonial circle. The energy between them intensified. The moon goddess had spoken. This was destiny. The High Elder smiled gently. It seems the bond has revealed itself. The crowd erupted into stunned murmurs, but Kaler didn't move. He didn't step closer. He didn't reach for her. Instead, his expression hardened, his jaw tightened, and his voice, cold, controlled, and dangerously distant, cut through the clearing. This bond, pause, is a mistake. The words struck harder than any blade. The murmurs turned into gasps. Lyria's heart shattered in silence. The mate bond pulsed painfully, as if rejecting his denial, but Kaler continued, "I will not accept a Luna chosen by chance or weakness." Each word felt deliberate. Each word felt final. "I reject this bond." The air itself seemed to collapse. The ceremonial fire flickered violently. Someone in the crowd laughed quietly. Someone else whispered cruelly, "She's not worthy." Lyria didn't cry. Not in front of them, not in front of him. The pain was too deep for tears. Her chest burned, her wolf whimpered, and yet her voice remained steady. Soft, dignified. "Then I accept your decision, Alpha King." For the first time, his expression shifted just slightly, as if he hadn't expected that, but Lyria had already lowered her head respectfully, not in submission. In closure, the mate bond trembled, cracked, and something inside her quietly broke. Without another word, she turned and walked away. Each step felt heavier than the last. The sounds of the ceremony faded behind her. The silver lanterns blurred. The moonlight no longer felt warm, only empty. Her wolf cried deep inside her soul. "He rejected us, he rejected us." Still, she kept walking, past the cedar trees, past the lit paths, toward the dark forest beyond the pack borders, because staying would hurt more. The wind grew colder as she stepped beyond the ceremonial grounds. One more step, then another, then the mate bond suddenly exploded with violent energy, not breaking, not fading, burning, fury. Raw, uncontrollable fury. Behind her, a roar shattered the night. Not human. Not fully wolf, something primal, something terrifying. The entire forest froze. Birds burst into flight. The ground trembled, Lyria turned slowly, and what she saw made her breath stop. At the center of the clearing, Alpha King Kaler had dropped to one knee, his body shaking violently, veins glowing faint silver beneath his skin. His eyes no longer controlled, no longer calm. They burned like molten stormlight, and then he roared again. This time louder, wilder, feral. The ceremonial circle exploded outward as power surged from him like a shockwave. The High Elder staggered back. Warriors stepped forward instinctively, but no one dared touch him, because every wolf present felt it. The Alpha King was losing control. Lyria's heart began racing. Something was wrong. This wasn't normal. Rejection usually weakened the bond, it didn't strengthen it. Kaler's head snapped upward. His glowing eyes locked directly onto her. Even from across the distance, she felt the pull slam into her chest. Possessive, dangerous, unavoidable. And then he stood, slowly, like a storm rising. The air grew heavy. The temperature dropped. Every instinct inside her screamed the same warning. Run, but she couldn't move. Because the Alpha King's voice, deep, raw, and shaking with restrained rage, echoed through the forest. Who, a pause, the ground cracked beneath his feet, told you to leave? Lyria's breath caught, the bond surged violently again. And suddenly she understood. He hadn't rejected her because he didn't feel the bond. He had rejected her because he was afraid of it. And now it was too late, because the moment she walked away, the Alpha King's wolf had taken it personally. The wind exploded outward as Kaler took one step forward, then another. Each step carried dangerous intent. The warriors moved aside instantly. No one blocked him, no one could. Lyria's pulse thundered, fear mixed with something deeper. Something warmer, something far more dangerous. The mate bond was no longer gentle. It was awakening. And the Alpha King was no longer holding back. The forest had never felt so silent. Even the wind seemed afraid to move. Lyria stood frozen at the edge of the cedar path, her breath shallow, her heartbeat echoing loudly in her ears. Every instinct inside her screamed danger, but not the kind that told her to run. This danger pulled her closer. Behind her, the ceremonial clearing still trembled with leftover energy from the Alpha King's power surge. Warriors remained tense, elders whispered urgently, yet no one dared interfere, because Kaler Draven was no longer simply standing. He was hunting, and she was the only thing in his sight. His cloak had fallen somewhere behind him. Silver moonlight illuminated the sharp lines of his face, now darker with something raw and primal. The veins beneath his skin glowed faintly as his wolf pressed dangerously close to the surface. His control was slipping. Every step he took toward her made the air heavier, more possessive, more territorial. Lyria's wolf stirred inside her, soft, frightened, but undeniably drawn toward him. Mate, the word echoed painfully. But how could he be her mate when he had rejected her? Her chest tightened. She forced herself to speak. My Alpha, I only followed your command. Her voice came out softer than she intended. Kaler stopped 10 steps away, close enough that she could see the tension in his jaw, the storm burning inside his glowing eyes. I gave no command, he said slowly. The tone of his voice had changed. It was no longer cold, it was dangerous. Lyria swallowed. You rejected the bond. The words hurt more to say than she expected. Silence fell between them. The mate bond pulsed again, stronger now, almost alive. For a moment, Kaler said nothing. Then his gaze dropped briefly to the ground before lifting again, sharper than before. I rejected the ceremony, and not the bond. The difference hit her instantly. Her breath caught. What? The wind stirred, lifting strands of her hair across her face. Kaler stepped closer. Now only 5 steps separated them. The High Elders planned this. He continued, voice low and edged with anger. They wanted a weak Luna, someone easy to control. Shock spread through Lyria's chest. She hadn't known. No one had told her, of course they hadn't. She was only the healer's daughter, invisible, unimportant. Except to fate, Kayla's eyes darkened, but they miscalculated one thing. Another step closer, the mate bond surged. Her wolf moved forward instinctively. They didn't realize the bond was real. The moment stretched. Electric, unavoidable, but Lyria's heart still hurt, because there was one question she could not silence. Then, why did you say it was a mistake? The words came out fragile, honest. Kayla's expression tightened. For the first time, something unfamiliar appeared in his eyes. Not anger, not dominance, conflict. The Alpha King, feared by every pack across the territories, hesitated. Because the truth was not simple, the truth was dangerous. For 3 years, he said slowly, every rival pack has been waiting for a weakness. The forest seemed to lean closer. Listening, I cannot afford one. The words struck differently this time, not cruel, protective. Lyria's chest tightened. You think I'm a weakness? Kayla's eyes snapped to hers instantly. No. The answer came faster than expected. Stronger than expected, and something inside her shifted. Because his voice carried something she hadn't heard before. Instinct, possession, fear, not of her, for her. But the mate bond was still unstable, still burning, still unresolved, and his wolf was still dangerously close to the surface. The energy between them intensified. Then pain hit, sharp, sudden. Lyria gasped as the bond pulsed violently through her chest. Her knees weakened. The rejection earlier had damaged the connection more than either of them realized. Kayla moved instantly. Faster than she could react. One moment she was falling, the next strong arms caught her, warm, solid. Unavoidable, the moment their skin touched, the bond exploded. Light, heat, power. Lyria's breath hitched as something deep inside her settled for the first time since the ceremony began. Her wolf calmed instantly. Relief flooded her body, but Kayla went completely still, because the effect on him was even stronger. His glowing eyes widened slightly, the feral energy around him stabilized, the storm quieted. Only her presence did that. Only her. His voice dropped into something deeper, rougher. Don't walk away from me again. The words weren't a command. They were a warning, and something softer, something almost vulnerable. Lyria looked up at him, still caught in his arms. But you told me to. Kayla's jaw tightened. That was before my wolf realized what you were doing. Her heart skipped. What was I doing? His gaze darkened, leaving. The word carried dangerous meaning, not walking, not stepping away. Leaving forever, and his wolf had nearly lost control because of it. Suddenly, a sharp voice cut through the forest. Alpha King. Both of them turned. 3 warriors were running toward them from the ceremonial clearing. Urgent, tense, one of them stopped several steps away and bowed quickly. There's a problem. Kayla's expression instantly hardened again. What problem? The warrior hesitated, then spoke. Blood Moon Pack scouts have crossed the northern border. The air went cold. Lyria felt it immediately. The shift in Kayla's energy. War, danger, strategy. The Alpha King had returned. But then the warrior added something unexpected. They're not just scouting. A pause, they're searching. Kayla's eyes narrowed. For what? The warrior glanced briefly toward Lyria, and that was enough. The answer became clear instantly. The bond pulsed again, this time not with warmth, with warning. Kayla's arm tightened protectively around her. His voice dropped into something lethal. They already know. The realization settled heavily between them. Someone had discovered the bond. Someone powerful enough to move this quickly. And if rival packs were searching for the Alpha King's mate, then Lyria was no longer invisible. She was a target. The wind shifted, carrying a distant scent, blood, smoke, war. Kayla's eyes sharpened as his wolf rose again. Not in loss of control this time, but in pure territorial dominance. The forest darkened under the weight of his aura. His next words were not spoken loudly, but every warrior felt them. Every tree seemed to listen. Every shadow deepened. No one touches what belongs to me. Lyria's breath caught. Because she realized something at that moment. The rejection was over. The danger had begun. Kayla looked down at her again. And for the first time, there was no hesitation left, only decision. Stay close to me. The mate bond pulsed in agreement. But deep inside her heart, a strange feeling whispered, the real storm hadn't started yet. Part 3, The Hunt Begins. The northern winds carried the scent of danger. Lyria felt it before anyone spoke another word. Her healer instincts had always been sharp, but tonight they were different, stronger, more alert, almost as if the mate bond had awakened something deeper inside her. Something ancient, something tied to the Alpha King himself. Kaler slowly released her, but not completely. His hand remained firmly around her wrist, steady and protective, as his gaze turned toward the dark tree line beyond the pack borders. The forest was no longer peaceful. It was watching, waiting, hunting. Call the border guards, Kaler ordered, his voice calm but edged with lethal authority. Double the patrol units. No one moves alone. The warriors immediately bowed and rushed back toward the clearing. Within seconds, the ceremonial celebration had transformed into a war alert. Torches were being repositioned. Scouts were shifting formations. Weapons were being unsheathed. Lyria's chest tightened. This was happening because of her, or more specifically because of the bond. Kaler seemed to sense the direction of her thoughts. Without looking at her, he spoke. "This is not your fault." The certainty in his tone surprised her. "But they're searching for me." "Yes." He finally looked down at her. "And that is exactly why they will fail." The confidence in his voice should have been reassuring. Instead, it made her more nervous because it carried something dangerous, the kind of certainty that only came from experience. From battle, from blood. Lyria hesitated before asking quietly, "Who is the Blood Moon Pack?" The moment the question left her lips, the air shifted. Even the wind seemed to slow. Kaler's expression darkened, not with fear but with memory. "They are not like other packs." That was not comforting. Lyria swallowed. "How?" Kaler's jaw tightened slightly. "They don't follow the moon goddess." A cold shiver ran through her. Every pack followed the moon goddess. It was the foundation of their existence, their laws, their bonds. Their destiny, without its chaos, darkness, madness, but Kaler continued, "They follow power." The forest suddenly felt colder. More hostile. Lyria's healer instinct stirred again. Something about this felt wrong, ancient, dangerous. "Who leads them?" she asked softly. Kaler's gaze shifted toward the northern horizon. For a moment he said nothing. Then, Alpha Darius. The name seemed to echo through the trees. Lyria didn't know why, but her heart skipped uneasily. Kaler continued. He was once part of the royal pack. Shock spread instantly across her face. "What?" Kaler nodded once. "Years ago." His voice grew quieter now, more controlled. As strong as he was, he wanted more. Power. Dominance, control. The story was already writing itself in Lyria's mind. What happened? Kaler's expression hardened. "I exiled him." The words landed heavily, and suddenly everything made sense. The border crossings. The search, the timing. This wasn't random. This was revenge. Before Lyria could ask another question, a sudden howl cut through the distance. Sharp, long, threatening. Every warrior in the clearing instantly froze. Then another howl answered it. Closer, the forest moved. Not with wind, with presence. Kaler's eyes glowed instantly. His wolf rose fast, alert, aggressive, territorial. "They're closer than I expected." Lyria's heart began racing. How many? Kaler's gaze sharpened. Enough. That was not the answer she wanted. The mate bond pulsed suddenly harder than before, not with warmth, with warning. Lyria gasped softly, instinctively pressing her hand against her chest. Something was wrong, very wrong. Kaler noticed immediately. What is it? Her breathing became uneven. I can feel them." Silence fell. Even the warriors nearby turned. Kaler's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" Lyria struggled to explain. "It's not like scent, it's deeper." The bond pulsed again, stronger, almost guiding her senses. Her gaze slowly turned toward the northern forest. There, Kaler followed her line of sight instantly. The air grew heavy because he felt it too, not through instinct. Through realization. They're not searching blindly, he said quietly. They're tracking the bond. The words sent ice through Lyria's veins. "Is that possible?" Kaler didn't answer immediately, which was answer enough. Someone in the Blood Moon Pack had power strong enough to sense mate bonds across territory lines. That meant only one thing. They had a seer, or worse, a witch. The wind shifted again, this time carrying a faint scent of smoke. And blood. Kaler stepped forward slightly, placing himself between Lyria and the forest without even thinking about it. Pure instinct, pure protection, but Lyria suddenly realized something important, something dangerous. The bond wasn't just letting her feel them, it was letting them feel her. The realization hit her like lightning. They're getting closer because of me. Kaler didn't deny it. Instead, his voice dropped into something cold and decisive. Then we move. Lyria blinked. Move. You cannot stay here. Her heart tightened. This is my home. Kaler looked at her fully now. And for the first time, his expression softened, not as an alpha, but as her mate. It won't be safe anymore. The truth hurt. But she could feel it. The bond itself confirmed it. The forest that once felt peaceful now felt exposed. Vulnerable watched, but before she could respond, a warrior suddenly ran toward them at full speed. Breathless, panicked, Alpha, Kaler turned instantly. What happened? The warrior's voice shook. They crossed the river. Silence. Then, they're already inside our territory. The air snapped with tension. Too fast. Far too fast. This wasn't normal movement. This was planned, calculated, precise. Kaler's wolf surged violently beneath his skin. The ground beneath his boots cracked slightly as his aura exploded outward. Dominant, terrifying, unstoppable. The Alpha King was no longer preparing for danger. He was stepping into it. Then something unexpected happened. Lyria felt the bond shift. Not with fear, not with warning, with power. Warm, ancient, awakening. Her heartbeat changed rhythm. Stronger, faster. Her vision sharpened slightly, and for a brief moment the forest itself seemed to glow. She gasped softly, "What is happening?" Kaler looked at her instantly, and what he saw made him freeze. Because her eyes were glowing, soft silver, like moonlight, like royalty, like something the moon goddess herself had touched. The wind rose suddenly, the trees whispered, and deep inside Kaler's instincts a realization formed. Lyria was not just his mate. She was something far more dangerous, far more powerful, far more rare. And if the Blood Moon Pact discovered it, war would not be enough to describe what would come next.